More breaking news out of the WWE. WWE has announced more releases just this morning, and these are some big time releases of major superstars. WWE announced today that Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott, Murphy, Lana, and Santana Garrett have all been released from their contracts. They have 90-day no competes, and they are done with the company. Now, I'm going to go through some of these major people, some of these major players, and go through possibly what went wrong and why this happened. But let me just read out a statement from WWE, and it's a very short one. It says that WWE has come to terms with the release of Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Lana, Murphy, Ruby Riott, and Santana Garrett. WWE wishes them all the best in their future endeavors. And, that's the simple statement that they always come out with, but noticeably it's pretty short and it kind of just lumps everyone together. And a lot of people thought this was very unceremoniously announced. And if you consider some of these people and where they were just recently, Braun Strowman wrestled at Backlash in a WWE Championship match, which was just like 2 weeks ago. Aleister Black was on SmackDown just about last week, attacking Big E, setting up a big angle with him. We saw Ruby Riott compete, I believe, last week as well, against Tamina and Natalya in a match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. We've also seen people like Santana Garrett who were sparingly used. Lana wrestled literally last night, so that one doesn't make sense. And Murphy was also in play. He was in SmackDown the past few weeks. So a lot of these people have literally come out of nowhere. The releases have come out of nowhere. And one thing to note, this is coming from Aleister Black, who has now changed his Twitter name to Tommy N. Quote, I'm gathering my thoughts as this was a complete left field for me, as obviously we just started the Dark Father character, but this was it. Thank you so much, WWE Universe, for allowing me to create and give you small bits of myself. And let's just start off with Aleister Black. Tommy N, you might know him from the independent scene. But Aleister Black was someone who had a very interesting character. He had a very interesting character down in NXT, this quiet, solemn, dark character who was a lot of people thought, oh, he's a bit of an Undertaker. No, but he was different. He was much different, and he made what he was doing his own. And in NXT, he was over. In NXT, he was being used well. His character was great. He comes up to the main roster, and he gets involved in this weird angle of Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio like trying to pull each other's eyes out. It just didn't work. And I'm going to get to why a lot of this didn't work with all these superstars, because quite frankly, it comes down to creative use, and it comes down to how these people are being used by the creative team. And more often than not, WWE creative is pretty bad, especially considering all these people and they were released. But now he comes back. He was doing this Dark Father gimmick with Big E, just starting a feud with Big E. He literally super kicked Big E last week on SmackDown in the middle of a championship match, costing him the title. So it was building up to something. They had plans for this guy, and then they just stopped him. So again, he said that it was out of left field for him. I can only assume this is out of left field for a lot of people. Next, let's get to Ruby Riott, someone who came in with a lot of intrigue and a lot of backing behind her. The Riot Squad. She was the leader of this faction of herself, Liv Morgan. And see, we saw glimpses of how great she can be, because Ruby Riott is a great wrestler, and she's got a great look. She's got she's got good personality in the ring. We haven't really seen her on promos too much, although when I did see her, she was pretty good. So she's someone who has a lot to offer. And the fact that WWE, especially considering the fact that, they've been pushing the women's division, they've been pushing these tag team titles, and the Riot Squad really haven't been anywhere near it until recently, and now they're done. It doesn't make sense. And Ruby Riott was someone who a lot of people, myself included, thought would be eventually a future WWE Women's World Champion. That didn't happen. And now she's off to hopefully greener pastures. And I think someone who's going to pay very close attention to her specifically is someone like Tony Khan in AEW, because they're trying to bolster their women's division. They're trying to get that going. They're trying to have more fresh matches. I think Ruby Riott would be an amazing addition for AEW. Let's take it off and go to Braun Strowman, who inarguably is the biggest and probably the most unconscionable of all of these releases. Braun Strowman should have been a multi-time world champion by this point. And that is not hyperbole. That is not, me stirring the pot, me making a bigger deal than it is. Braun Strowman should have been a multi-time world champion had WWE known how to use him. Because there were multiple times, this guy was given crap. He turned it into gold. And there were multiple times where the crowd was behind him, even though WWE had killed him just months prior. Go back to 2017 when Braun initially had his big run in WWE, like his initial singles run. He was doing stuff with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns that was crazy. Flipping ambulances. He was taking grappling hooks and pushing down the set onto Brock Lesnar. He was destroying Brock Lesnar in a SummerSlam 2017 match, in a Fatal 4-Way match for the title. He took him out completely out of that match. He was doing all of this great stuff. And then the payoff was Braun Strowman's first singles championship, or his first championship in WWE, was winning the tag team titles with the kid. The 10-year-old kid, I forgot his name, at WrestleMania 34. That was the payoff. And then Braun Strowman took a dip for a while. Came back up because the fans love him. The fans love him. They love his character. They love the way he speaks. They love the way he wrestles. He's just a big, huge guy who destroys everything in his path, and that is cool. That is legitimately cool. He won the title against Goldberg at WrestleMania 37 or 36, and then he lost it to the Fiend. Okay, hasn't been doing much since. Then he comes up and he has this match in the triple threat match with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. I thought it was a good match. I thought Braun Strowman was probably the best person in that match, in my opinion. Takes the pin. We haven't seen him since, and now he's gone. Makes no sense that WWE Creative had nothing to do with this guy. It makes zero sense. If you don't know how to use Braun Strowman, you shouldn't be in the wrestling business. That is just unconscionable. Like I said, it's just you can't do that. Like that it baffles my mind that they didn't have anything to do with Braun Strowman. It's baffling that you couldn't use the biggest, baddest, big monster guy you had on your entire roster. Up next, Lana was also released, and we saw her wrestle literally on Monday night on Raw. So this was also out of left field, and you can only assume that these were decisions that were made literally yesterday, and then now they're being executed today. But Lana was getting better in the ring. We've seen her development as a wrestler. She was getting better. And I think that, letting her go, why did you put all this work into it if you're just going to release her at this point? Why not finish what you were doing? Why not see it through? But then again, they decided to go another way. She's someone who could end up with AEW, considering her relationship with Miro. That could happen. She alternatively could go to maybe Impact, and maybe Miro will work some dates there, because I know they live in Nashville, and that's where TNA or Impact Wrestling is run out of. So that could be something that would be beneficial to both of them, and to her especially. So we'll see what happens with her. Murphy is the next person I want to get to. Murphy had an interesting last year in the WWE. He, really got into the limelight with Seth Rollins' his Messiah character. We saw he had a lot of good things to say on the mic. He was really good on the mic. He was in ring where he's a good worker. I think someone who got lost in the shuffle too often, and eventually it just caught up with him. And I think this is it catching up with him. And you can say very similar things with Santana Garrett. We have not seen Santana Garrett since the Royal Rumble. So for for Santana Garrett to get released, for all this stuff to happen, it's it's insane because again, WWE just doesn't know how to use some people. I think Santana will go eventually. Maybe she'll go back to where she was before. I think AEW should also consider picking her up. Add some more depth to your roster. That's something they could do. But as far as WWE creative goes, all of these releases are an indictment on WWE creative, plain and simple. That's the main reason for these releases because they had nothing. Because they have dropped the ball multiple times with all of these people. They have dropped the ball multiple times. They don't know how to use people. Raw is unwatchable with the talent they have. That's terrible to say. And again, it comes down to this. Wrestling is simple. If someone's over, if someone's getting good crowd reaction, just push them to the moon. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to bring in like 50 Hollywood writers to write stuff for Braun Strowman. Just have him go out there and destroy stuff every week. You don't have to have 50 Hollywood writers to write stuff for Ruby Riott. Just have her go out there and be a badass and beat people up. You don't have to be a Hollywood writer to know that Allister Black, he's got some dark aspects of his character and some mysticism. And then he just goes out there and beats people up. That's plain and simple. That's what wrestling's about, going out there and beating people up. And it's something that WWE has yet to realize. And it's terrible. And considering the fact that this is now the third round of releases in the past month, just terrible. Like, think of some of the names that are gone now. Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, Alexander Wolf, Kavita Devi, Ruby Riott, like the Iconics. The fact that WWE had nothing to do with these people and had no idea what to do with these people, they have to fix things up there, man. They really have to. And if they don't, they are going to fall into a rut. And it's going to fall fast. And it's not going to be good. Last thing I will share is Renee Paquette, formerly Renee Young from WWE, tweeted out something referring to these rounds of releases. She said, quote, "What a horrible mismanagement of some really talented people. Sucks." Could not agree more, Renee. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.